I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. Now, I need to do at least one more news story about the Carly Hammond situation and her accusations against Jordan Chariton. Because my initial video was about the initial response I had to what was going on with Carly Hammond and Jordan Chariton. But now she's been interviewed by Tim Black at least like 3 or 4 days ago, and a few more people made videos about that interview. And then H.A. Goodman, he's done a couple interviews, actually I think 3 or 4 interviews with other people that work with Truth Against the Machine or used to work for Jordan Chariton with that company Truth Against the Machine. Then I also watched Nico House's video, and he just went through a whole lot of his experiences with Jordan Chariton and him working for Jordan Chariton with Truth Against the Machine. So I really wanted to watch a whole bunch of different interviews and news shows and just testimonies about their experiences with Jordan and what went on. I'm going to try to do this without that many cuts because sometimes it's just irritating how I'm just still not all that great at being in front of the camera and just talking, but that's kind of a mental thing. I'm just not all that great at doing it, but I'm going to try to limit that for this video. But one thing I do need to talk about is how I think a couple days after I did my initial video, then Jank, he actually finally did do his video and address the situation and how they had to fire Jordan. And a lot of it was because of just his mismanagement of the people that he worked with, and especially with his own testimony with his Medium article. So that's no big deal. But it was a little disappointing that Jank and the Young Turks, they didn't want to actually go into to see if Jordan did or did not commit sexual assault, because they're a news organization, and if they could dig in and find the information to see if it is true, I personally think they should have done that, especially since Jordan did work for TYT. And there's more incentive for them to actually dig in and find out what happened. They might not still say, evidently this is facts, because it should still go to trial and that sort of thing, but they could have said the facts are really showing that Jordan Chariton did or did not commit sexual assault that night against Carly Hammond, that kind of thing. So I'm disappointed in Jank and TYT because they have talked about how they want to bring forth positive and progressive change to the United States. Maybe the world too. I'm not sure about the world, but at least for the United States, and that was one way they could have done that. Because Carly, at the end of her long interview, she did talk about how TYT, to her, they kind of just did the minimum amount necessary. And Jank's video did really state that out. They're just doing the investigation to see if they wanted to or needed to fire Jordan, and not to dig in and see actually what happened with Jordan and Carly. Maybe even some other TYT employees, but it was mostly, I think, just Truth Against the Machine employees that Jordan kind of mistreated. Alright, but I got some notes up. And one video that I did watch was about Tatsu Adika, and he did a video more specifically about Chelsea Lyons' role with the sexual assault allegation. He really went fairly into detail about how Chelsea Lyons, she was like the devouring mother because she was older than Carly Hammond, and with this older woman role, that she kind of just really had this destructive force and really kind of hurt Carly. And and he also talked about, in a way, she really kind of harmed Jordan in a way too. So I thought that was interesting. So I suspect he might have like a psychology degree or something like that. He does something with human interactions and how humans think, because that was something I really didn't think about, and I didn't really see any other videos about the psychology of someone else that a lot of people wouldn't think about had a key role in it. Okay, and then I did watch the whole interview that Carly had with Tim Black. But what happened with me was I watched it probably about 30 minutes in. I watched it live. And then a few days later, I watched it, like the first 30 or first 27 minutes of it. And it was really long, so of course it took a while, but it seems to me that it apparently is for Carly that her grief wasn't just that, of course, since it was 2.5 hours long, that it wasn't just that she was upset and she felt like she was taken advantage of because of Jordan one night, that he said, hey, let's get drunk, so let's get drink and let's go have sex. That's apparent from the start, because she talked a lot about the background first. She talked about how when she first came in to work for Truth Against the Machine, and she talked about how she really admired him, and kind of in a way he was her hero. So with that background, and with you knowing that she has high admiration for him, that she's a little more susceptible to being mistreated or taking mistreatment longer, or more susceptible to being sexually abused than someone that didn't have strong feelings about Jordan, or stuff like that. So it wasn't just about that night. It was just over a period of time that he was sexually inappropriate, according to her testimony. So it was just about... Alright, so she went into detail about that night, about how she got sexually assaulted. And one key thing that I think, of course, I'll take it as, I'll believe the victim, so I'll assume that she was sexually assaulted. I'm not saying it's fact that she was sexually assaulted or she was raped, and Jordan's a liar, but I'll just assume that the victims are right, because we gotta protect the victims. We're not gonna slut shame and really discount victims as they're lying, or they can't be telling the truth, or this can't be right. We can't just dismiss them. So I'll accept her story. But one key is that she also really needs to press charges against Jordan Chariton, because in my opinion, like I said in another video, that if women are getting sexually assaulted and they're not pressing charges, especially if these assaults and rapes happen in the short term, like they didn't happen years ago, but happened a few months ago, a few weeks ago, that they really need to go and press charges when they feel like they're able to. So then these guys actually go to trial. A lot of them will go to jail. So then we'll actually get positive change, where a lot less people are going to keep on abusing women, and a lot more people are going to, not commit sexual assault and rape in the first place. So hopefully she does press charges, not just against Jordan, but against Chelsea, because according to her testimony, Chelsea actually initiated the sexual assault or the rape first. So it'd be very hypocritical for her to say Jordan raped me, but Chelsea did not. So, and then that was actually a very important part of what happened that night, according to her, is because Chelsea, she initiated the sexual assault in the first place. She sexually assaulted her, Then she woke up Jordan and said, hey, you should have her. You should have sex with her. So Chelsea had a key role with it, so she really needs to charge both of them with sexual assault. And then she goes on with talking about over the next, few days or so that Jordan really talked her into really moving up to New York with her, and I guess in a way making her comfortable so she wouldn't come out with the allegations. And since in a way she kind of still had this admiration kind of still attached to him, that she actually went with it. And of course that makes her situation a lot worse than it already was. But hopefully she comes out with the charges, because she also did talk about, and she claims that Jordan's a sexual predator. So if he actually is a sexual predator, and it's, down to facts that he is that person, that he really needs to go and get put on trial for this. Because then he's just going to prey on other women, and then the same thing's going to happen to them. Okay, and then I watched Nico House. He talked a lot about how Carly's testimony was true, that Jordan did kind of bribe and kind of mistreat women by giving them empty promises and then trying to seduce them. And then the former Truth Against the Machine editor-in-chief, she also talked about how other women came out to her and talked about how they were, I think, sexually assaulted by Jordan too. So it's really not looking good for Jordan. And I liked his reporting. He did make some mistakes, especially with the water coverage he did, especially with trying to collect water from the water tanks, because quite a few months after I watched that video and all those videos about him collecting water to be tested, that you do have to drain the water tanks because sediment does build up on the bottom, and you have to do that like twice a year or something like that, but at least once a year. So he didn't do that. So I've learned that people make mistakes. Even the reporters you like, they're gonna fuck up too. So it's just really not a good situation. And I've also noticed that Kyle Klinsky from Secular Talk, Mike Figueroa from the Humanist Report, Jimmy Dore, especially them three, they haven't really talked about the Jordan Chariton sexual allegations. And I think that's a big fucking misstep that they're doing right now, because this is a big story with not just another news reporter or someone in the media is being accused of something like this, but that it's someone in the progressive news media where they're claiming that they're wanting to help people, especially the poor and the working class, especially economically, with helping them make sure they have water protection and they're not having lead put in their water, and just letting the government screw them over by making sure they have to keep paying super high water bills when the water is poisoned with lead. And how the city, I think the city of Flint, wanted to take people's homes away because they didn't want to pay their water bill, just with this tax liens and just all sorts of corrupt shit. So it's even worse when someone in the progressive community is sexually assaulting women or doing perverse things against people, especially since Carly Hammond was his employee. That makes it even worse, because he had a lot of power over her. And then Holly Seeler from Zoom Politicon, I was hoping she'd do a video on this too, so I got to throw some criticism her way. I think she should do a video. And TYT Politics, because he was the main reporter that was making news videos on that channel. So for them to not, at least on TYT Politics, say, you know what, Jordan Chariton's been let go because of mismanagement. We're going to have someone else is going to replace him. Namiki Kant is going to replace him as the main reporter, something like that. They should have at least done a video on that, because for the people that watch TYT Politics, that's who it affects the most, of Jordan getting fired. So that's just another fuck up and another mishap that the TYT and Cenk Uygur is doing, and I'm pretty disappointed.